it's Anna. Welcome back to my channel. Today is a book video. I love books, if you didn't know. Usually on my channel I do writing videos, if you aren't aware. And just recently I wanted to kind of branch out my channel and do some reading videos. So I'm so excited to do a 2022 recap of the best and worst books I read last year. If you enjoyed this content, definitely subscribe to my channel and let's go ahead and get on to the video. I have no idea if I should start with the good books or the bad books. I don't know. I think I might start with the good books just so that we have a good lively sort of atmosphere as we start the video. So one of the best books I read during 2022 was The Alchemist. This book was so great. If you don't know, it's kind of like a philosophical, it's kind of religious tale of a young man who kind of seeks the purpose of his life, and I think it was just so eye-opening. It was beautiful, and I remember particularly that there was a bug that literally flew on one of my pages as I was reading the ending, and it was this quote right here, and I just thought it was so cool because that kind of like sums up the whole story, and I really love this book and I definitely would recommend to everyone who wants to read something really inspiring and comforting. And it just kind of reminded me very much of like the Narnia Chronicles, that sort of simple story, but it's so deep and I adored it. I gave this one 5 stars. Next books I really enjoyed last year was actually some manga. I love Ouran High School Host Club, so reading it was just chef's kiss. I was able to get the first and second volume, and this anime is just so fun and I loved it. Of course I'm gonna adore the manga, but this is kind of like a romantic comedy. I definitely recommend you guys to watch it or read it. It's hilarious. It's basically where there's a host club and there's like these boys who are kind of running the club, and their sort of service is to like charm girls and like have tea with girls. But then there's a girl character who kind of like accidentally breaks something that's really expensive, and she has to kind of like pay back the bill, and because she has no money, because she's broke, she has to work with these guys, and it's hilarious. It's so funny. So yeah, I rated these like 5 stars, and yeah, so good. The last book that I really enjoyed last year was In the Dream House. This was extremely hard to read. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I loved the writing and the way that the author like told her story. If you didn't know, this book is like a memoir about like queer domestic abuse, and I think it was really interesting to kind of have that view upon domestic violence in general. And it was definitely something that I kind of read that was outside of my comfort zone, but it was definitely really emotional and made me really think about things. But it was a really good book. Sad, yes. Emotional, yes, but somehow hopeful. And I think like by reading this book, I now want to kind of branch out even more and read more sort of memoirs, and hopefully yeah, learn some more about other authors and their lives. So yeah, this was a really good book. I think I rated it 4 stars. But that kind of sums up all the books that I actually liked last year. And the reason why there's not many is because it's because of this book. I read this last year and it put me in like at least a 6-month reading slump. So I read like only 13 books last year when I usually read like double or at least triple that. And the thing is that with this sort of list thing, I don't know where the heck to put this book because it's like one of my favorite books, but I hate it so much. So what am I gonna do? Because of that, this is kind of like an in-between, I guess, read. If you've read The Little Life, I'm not going to explain it because it's gonna make me cry, but it's a beautiful book. I rated it 5 stars. I love it so much. I love Jude so I actually do have a whole vlog of me finishing this book, so if you guys want to check that out, go on the iCard. But I like cry like a baby. I cry like an angry teenager, and it's an experience. If you don't want to get into a half-year reading slump, don't read this, but if you do want to, read it. So because of this book, of course, I didn't read a lot of books during last year, so I'm actually going to be going a step back and also kind of including some of the best books I read also in 2021. And that's because that year I read so much more, and I actually wanted to kind of include some of the best books I read because that was an amazing reading year. The 2 main books I want to add to this list are these 2, and these have become my favorite books of all time. So you can kind of say 2021 was the best reading year because I found these 2 books. The first one is Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. I love this book so much. It's my favorite book ever. It's beautiful. I can't even explain it, describe it. I'll have this here if you guys want to pause and read what it's about, but like it's so hard to describe, but it's so beautiful. It's just like, oh, in the ending, I'm not very good at summing up a book I really love. Like, I feel like for the books I don't like, it's easy to sum up, but like books I love, they're so complicated and weird, and just like, this is such a bizarre book, but I love it. I love how creepy it is. So read this book if you haven't already, because I guarantee it will become your favorite book. I love Susanna Clarke now. I love her. And then the next book, of course, is Ober Newton by Isabel Carmody. She's actually an Australian author. I'm Australian if you guys didn't know. But this book, I remember like picking it up at like a Lifeline store, which is like a thrift store here in Australia. And I picked it up. I'm like, this looks really, really cool. And I read like half of it and I was really confused because I was like 12 or something, or like 10 years old, and I couldn't like even imagine like this huge fantasy world. But then I ended up picking it up during 2021 and I adored this book. This book is so good. It's like, it has like a whole series, but in itself it's such a quick, fun fantasy read, and I adored it so much. It was just so nostalgic for no reason because I hadn't read it before. I just love those sorts of books that's like nostalgic even though you have like never read it before. That's my favorite sort of vibe. So these two books I actually gave 5 stars each, of course 5 million, because these are my 2 favorite books of all time. But that does include, of course, Stranger Dreamer. These are my 3 books of all time, if you guys were curious. These are my 3 favorite books. But yeah, that's the end of the best books I read in 2022 and 2021. So let's go ahead and get into the worst books. I'm scared. Okay, so the only one I would put on this list is literally A Little Life, because I didn't read any books I didn't like during 2022. So I'm gonna be also including some books I read during 2021 which I did not like, and I have a lot to say, okay? I have a lot to say. The first book is actually Mockingbird. Mockingjay. My goodness, what is wrong with me? By Susan Collins. The reason why I didn't like this book is because when you read The Hunger Games, I can also probably include the second book, but the second book wasn't as bad. Just read the first book. Don't read the whole series, because this is so depressing to the point where I cried so much, especially the last chapter. I'm like, she leaves us with nothing, no hope, because they're all so broken. Like, wow. I hated this book, basically. Not because it was bad, but just because of how sad it made me and how like we were left with nothing, you know? And I really did love the story, you know, up till, you know, the end of The Hunger Games. Made me mad, made me sad. I just, that's what I have to say. The next book that I didn't really like is actually, I love this series. I know it might seem weird. I love the Hunger Games series. I love this series. The last books, guys, they are confusing. The only reason why I put this on this list is because if you don't want spoilers, just skip 10 seconds. But like, the snake, why does Cotton turn into a snake? But like, that was a little bit weird to me. Made me like, I was literally reading it, I'm like, what? You know what I mean? And they had to save him or something, and I'm like, I can't even remember, man, but I just remember being just like so like, what? And it just ruined the whole thing. The second book was so good. The second book saved the whole series for me. I hated the first book, loved the second book. The third book I hated, and I was just like, what the heck? The first book I hated, if you guys didn't know maybe, is because of how mean Cotton was to Jude. I was just like, stop being so mean. But the second book I was kind of like, okay. And I guess it was the sort of like series I first ever read which had enemies to lovers and like a really big like harsh take on it. So I was a little bit uncomfortable because I'm not really a enemies to lovers fan. I'm more of like a banter, they have to work together but they kind of like each other, but then they're mean to each other, not like they want to kill. Like Jude nearly died because of Cotton, you know what I don't know. Anyways, I forgot how, I think I gave this like 3 stars. I gave the other one, sorry, I think 3 stars as well. But it's still really good, just saying, it is really good. The next book I actually hated, and I guess this is like an actual book, is We Were Liars by someone Lockhart. I've actually unhauled this book, so I don't have it anymore. I did have it, and I just didn't like it because it was a good read. I think I literally gave it like 2-3 stars, and that's still really good for me. But like, I just was not taken by the story. I was not emotionally encaptured by the characters, and it's kind of a story where it just it gave me like The Great Gatsby sort of vibes, where it's just like these rich kids on their own holiday island, and it's just like the drama there, and like even the whole plot twist at the end, I was just like, cool, I guess. There was a bit of plot holes, at least like from my perspective, and like, I don't know, I don't know, just made me, I don't like it, okay? I don't like it. The next book's actually up here, so I'll get it. Okay, this. I liked this book, okay? I liked it, but I didn't. I actually think Matthew, the character Matthew in this, was the only thing that made me want to keep reading this book. The second book, which is over here, was actually a lot better, because the reason why I didn't like Chain of Gold is because it had no plot whatsoever, and to me, I thought I would be all here for the characters. I loved how Jem was in it too, because I'm a big Jem stan, but still the fact that it was just like no plot and just like characters, it was just like not grounded. At least from my perspective, this book was a lot more grounded. Still, it was just like very interesting. I definitely did love this book. This book was so fun to read, and usually Cassandra Clare's books are really easy to read too, but this book just like had me frustrated. And I think it's just because I really love the original series, The Infernal Devices, so much that I expected a lot from this book. I think I gave it like 3 stars, but still it's a great read. For the series, I can't wait for the 3rd book, because I really want Matthew to get with Cordelia, because I hate James so much. That's enough said about this book. Okay, the next book is up here, which I just got. Look. I read a lot of like the big series during 2021, so that's why I'm kind of like including it in this video. Did I say that? That's why I'm kind of including them in this video, because these are kind of like when I got into reading, which was like a few years ago. But then when I started to actually understand what the big sort of trilogies, big sort of fantasy books were, I finally were able to buy them because I had no money, which I now kind of do. But Siege and Storm, there was nothing in this. This was so boring. It was so boring. I don't understand why it was so unnecessary. Like, I think you could have just taken this whole book out and put is it Rage and Ruin? I don't know what the other book is called. I did love this series. The first book was my favorite. I like ate that up in a day. But this one, it was so hard to get through. I'm like, what is going on? Yeah, I didn't like it. Sorry. But anyways, that's the video. Thank you so much for watching. It's so weird being able to talk about books with you guys, and I hope you enjoyed yeah, my rambling. But yeah, if you do want more content like this, more bookish content as well as writing content, definitely comment down below, and of course subscribe to my channel if you're new. But anyways, I hope to see you in my next video, and I'll see you later. Bye.